the suppression of the use of marijuana and of the forces lurking behind it are the most important jobs this department is now engaged in. In 1930, the records on marijuana in the Washington office of the Narcotics Division scarcely filled a small folder like this. Today, they fill cabinets.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Coloradians and everyone that's smart enough to listen from the outside.
One of the most amazing plants we've ever discovered.
The pot party, the trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secret.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Stolen Appetit with your host, as always, it's me, Kip. To my left, I got CB back from the beaches of Normandy, aka Gulf Coast, Alabama,
aka Redneck Riviera.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we got an epic episode for y'all today. Our guest joining us today is Miss Wendy Lynn. We've teased her on our Instagram about joining us on this episode, but Wendy is, we're just going to say, a food savant connoisseur who is a Southern redneck just like us, but at the same time, she's an expat as well. She calls home kind of the trains of Europe, you know, the flights of Ryu, things along those lines. It's going to be a great episode. We're going to talk with Wendy about all things food, wine, and then she's got a really cool new show that she's about to start taping, and we're going to ask her about that. Y'all are going to love this episode. It's got everything. It's got absolutely everything. But before we get started, I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't give a shout out to our sponsors, the Cali's Cannabis Company. That's an alliteration, Chris. 3 C's. Cali's recently opened 2 new locations in the Denver metro area. They started making their bones up in the burbs of North Glen, but with their new locations on 31st and Larimer and their new location right off West 8th Avenue on West Cooster Place, they've got everything you need. We partnered up with them because I do truly believe they have some of the best flower in the market you can buy recreationally in Colorado. And of course, they have all the great fixins, whether it be your oils, your tinctures, your balms, and then of course they got edibles. And the best part about it is they have a different discount every day of the week. So if you're looking for vapes and you're looking for a discount, go on Thursdays, they got 15% off. Or check out Fridays, they got Friday flower, 10% off. Epic deals, great product, hell of a great family that's running the operation. We're proud to call ourselves partners with Cali's. Check them out. That's SHOPPECALLIES.com, or check that same name on Instagram so you can see what they're working with and what the deals are. Woo! I did that without cussing. That's pretty good.
That was great.
Thank you. I think Charles will be proud of that one. All right. So let's go ahead and introduce our guests. Wendy, how are you?
Hey, honey, I didn't know that the show was called Stoned Appetit.
Yeah, we have a French influence.
I should be interviewing you on how that came about, but next time.
Stonerisms, that's the term we use.
We have an idea board and we just throw shit up there and that one stuck. So we ran with it.
Okay, love it.
Yeah. But Wendy, we're really fired up. I gave you a little intro, but it didn't really do you justice. We became friends via the internet because you're posting super dank French food running around the world. And I'm like, this is the most epic account. Turns out you're a Southern gal. I'm going to call you Chickadee for the rest of the episode. You're just one of us.
That's actually the name of my Cocker Spaniel.
What? You have 2 dogs, Magnum and Chickadee?
Yeah.
We really are best friends.
And they're French.
Hey, hell yeah. Well, speaking of which, we usually start every episode where we ask our guests when we're in person if they're a transplant or a native. That obviously doesn't play, seeing as we both know you're not here in Colorado or a Coloradan. So give us a little backstory. Are you a Southern girl? You grew up in the Redneck Riviera as well?
Yeah, I mean, my accent is different because, I'm Southern, but I don't sound like I'm from Texas and I don't sound like I'm from Charleston. Those people are uptown a little bit from where we're from around these parts. And this crazy thing is my accent got more thick once I moved to Paris 25 years ago. So even I'm home now before I take it on this crazy epic adventure I'm about to start. And my mother even said, why is it every time you come home, your accent just gets heavier and heavier?
Oh, see, that's crazy. Whenever I go home, I like transition into this other person where my accent just automatically gets thicker. Like I have to or else I'm just like, oh, I don't belong here if I don't talk like this.
Yeah, and I mean, she's an English professor, and so my grammar drives her crazy. So it became a joke around here that I say, "Mama, we ain't got no milk, we ain't got no food." And it started when I was 6. I was standing in front of the refrigerator door. My mother walked in and said, "Wendy Lynn, what are you doing?" And I said, "Mama, we ain't got no food." And she said, "Wendy Lynn, we don't have any food." And I looked back at the refrigerator, looked back at her, and I said, "That's what I said. We ain't got no food."
Oh my God. I think we have the same mom. My mom still parks me on my grammar. Now I get made fun of a little bit for like enunciating or how I say like 5 and things like that.
Yeah.
But whenever I misspeak, whether it be like my brother and I are going to the, the corner store or whatever it may be, she would, if it's me and my brother are going somewhere, she's like, "Your brother and I."
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the Southern thing. They kept us on our P's and Q's.
Even when I speak French, it's this accent. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
So are you from the Gulf Coast or where exactly? Oh, okay.
I was born on an airplane between Atlanta and Panama City, Florida.
Oh, nice. That must have been exciting.
Well, I wish I'd remembered it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were kind of, I mean, it's almost, I don't know if this is like poetic, but being born on a plane, it seems like you were meant for this jet set life that you have.
Yeah, I mean, my brother is got kids, living the suburban life. He just moved into a big, beautiful house outside Chicago, and I'm like, damn, it looks like Andy Griffithville. I don't know what I would do with all that.
Oh,
Like-
Mayberry.
Yeah, like I literally live out of a suitcase. So we're just two totally different, human beings. Love each other, but it's just a different lifestyle. So even as I pack today, I'm just looking around going, no, I'm not packing bags.
Well, you kind of tease, y'all do have that different life. Let's start a little bit with, you grew up in the South. How the fuck did you find yourself in France for 25
Exactly.
years?
I mean, I get asked this all the time and we could talk about it all day, but I mean, basically I chose a university in Birmingham, Alabama, that had an internship for London. And I wanted out of the South. I knew I wanted to go to Europe, and this was the only way I was going to get to do it. So even in high school, I wasn't a cheerleader. I hung out with all the cool kids, but I took extra classes. I went to summer school so I could get the grades to get the scholarship because this university is super expensive. So
Wait, were you Samford?
Yeah.
Samford.
And so I got the internship, went over to London, and at the very end of it, we had a weekend trip to Paris, and basically I didn't come back. Like I had them FedEx my diploma. My
Nice.
parents were livid. They were, what? Wait a minute, no graduation? I was like, no, man, I'm in Europe, man. It's time to keep going. So caught the next train and started traveling through Europe and was trying to figure out how to extend the trip longer. And then it became a question of legal papers. And then it became a question of how am I going to make a living? So at some point I came back to get, visa paperwork and et cetera. But I got a little apartment in Paris and met a baker called Lionel Poilane, Poilane. He's got a famous family bakery in Paris. And he was basically the only person that I knew that spoke English. And he was a huge, obviously world-renowned baker. So he just turned me on to, you were just talking about flour, but baking and sourdough. And then he introduced me to his chef friends, and they introduced me to their wine friends. And then eventually I just learned French and found a life there.
What all did your parents say when you called them up and you were like, I think I'm going to stay here?
Well, I did it slowly. It was, I need 3 more weeks. Then it was, I need 6 more weeks. And then and the worst part was I was actually engaged to be married, and I had a job at a big food and wine magazine waiting on me. And I ditched both of them.
Good
So
call.
the parents weren't just like, what do you mean you're staying in Europe? It was no graduation, no wedding, no house, no job. Have you lost your mind?
What are you doing with your life, Wendy?
Yeah. And actually, it's quite a poetic moment with my dad and I, because he didn't talk to me for quite a while. He was really upset with me. And he said at the time, Wendy, you are throwing your entire life away. And he told me about 10 years ago, he regretted saying that, because I answered, I said, but Daddy, I'm 19. I haven't even lived a life yet. That was it.
There you go. And look at you now.
I mean,
I'm still trying to live a life. I'm not done.
I mean, and at 19 and not, you mentioned, you learned French, but just going over there, those take cojones that, a lot of people don't have, you hear about these people taking like a leap year or whatever, and they just go live off their parents. But you were immersing yourself not only in a country and a culture, but a lifestyle that you were like, I'm going to do this for a living.
Got to do what it takes, baby. Put in the work.
Yeah. So how did you like make ends meet? Were you working in the bakery and then like writing on the side? Or was it just like, holy shit, how does an American find their way like that in France?
Yeah, like I said, everyone's got their own journey, but I equate it to one of those pinball machines where you put the quarter in and you pull the ball back and you let yourself go. It's just like hitting those levers. You just do whatever it takes not to hit the bottom. And the bottom for me was not living in Europe. So I did everything I could possibly do to keep from like hitting the bottom and going down the hole because I was afraid I wouldn't get a chance to go again. So I just made it up as I went along and I just made it work for me. Like I knew I wanted this life. So it wasn't a matter of finding the job to fit the life, which is where I think a lot of people go wrong. I get a lot of people asking me, how can I find your job? It's not find my job. It's find your life and then make it work. Then find a job that works for it. That's the other way around. I never wanted to work. I just wanted to have a good time. So I found a way to get paid for it.
That's awesome. Well, quick question though, why did you choose Paris? I mean, like you were in London, you said, what was it about Paris?
That's a great question. Only one person has asked me that other than you. And I was surprised at my answer because genuinely I said, I didn't find Paris, Paris found me. It was just when I look back now, even though I'm like right now for your viewers to know, I live in Paris, but I also have a place in Venice, Italy, where I would go vacation. It's just a tiny little place on the water to get away from the city, but I've been there since the lockdown. And, even though I travel and go everywhere, Paris and France is always home for me. The food I miss is there. I love trying new things like in Vietnam and all these other places I go, but it's just, I don't know. It just found me.
Wendy, my heart is smiling so big because I couldn't agree more. Like that's the only place I've had the experience of like traveling and like kind of immersing yourself in like someone else's culture. And you're just like, I just fell in love with it. And so I can see how if, Paris picked you, how you would want to just like wrap yourself in everything. And your Instagram page shows it, whether it be the croissants or, the natural wine or just the lifestyle of being able to kind of congregate around food and beverage. And then like you said, the lifestyle and finding a job that treats, that fits you. I don't think a lot of people know exactly what it is you do.
It all starts what I used to do. So
there we go. Yeah, that's what
you're talking about the entry into Europe, and then now I'm in this new phase. But in the middle, I've actually been I had a public relations company, and I built restaurants for people. But that doesn't mean I'm an architect. It means I took the idea out of their head and I hired all the right people to build the restaurant for them, and then followed it through with the opening. So I've had tons of huge clients. So back in the day in Chicago, I had some Charlie Trotter restaurants I was responsible for. Also a French chef named Alain Ducasse, for Michelin starred chef. So at that time he had 17 properties I was responsible for in terms of branding and messaging. And then my biggest, job to date was when I brought the Michelin Guide over to New York City. It was the first Michelin Guide outside France in the United States. With a PR company partnership through New York. So that's what I've been doing. So in essence, that's how I met so many journalists. That's how I met so many musicians and actresses and actors and chefs and restaurant people. And living on the road, traveling a lot, they became my family. So I say the F word a lot, but the other F word I say a lot is family. And people keep saying, well, how can she have 10 brothers? How can she have 30 sisters? How can she have 15 dads? So that's, the other question is how does she freaking know so many people? She's like Kevin Bacon or something, the 6 degrees of separation. And that's why. So that's what I used to do. And so I took 7 years off to just travel and to just goof off. And I thought it was going to be 6 months. Well, it turned into 7 years of not working, blew through